Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you how the Moog Labyrinth works. Labyrinth is a strange analog synthesizer with a very unique architecture. It's two parallel synthesizers with two curious sequencers attached to it. And in this video, I'm going to explain how to play it, how it works in a very musical context. As you can hear, I'm joined by old friends, and how with a labyrinth and some other voice-making things, we can corrupt and find new moments live in front of an audience, bravely navigating sound, a labyrinth, seeing where we end up. We can always return. Let's play. So, to explain the labyrinth's architecture, we have two independent pathways running through the synth, each with their own oscillator, one with a filter, the other with a wave folder. And we can run them independently, or we can run them into each other in different directions to get different sounds. There's these two sequencers at the bottom, which are called shift registers, and I will come to them in a sec, but suffice to say, they create voltages and gates that will trigger the two pathways, or one big pathway if we wire it that way. As the basic sound architecture, we have a oscillator which goes from 20 Hertz to 5 kilohertz, which is a sine wave. We've got a little mixer here so that I'm hearing just that oscillator, and if I turn up this amount, we can wavefold that sine wave. Sounds really nice to animate that, and I can if I turn up the sequence 1 amount. Now this little sequencer's voltages that it's creating are making the wavefolder go up and down on a per step basis. And I can also have the envelope, which is just a very basic decay envelope. Its decay controller is there. The second envelope's decay controller is there. So we can get this kind of like tribal thing. But on the other side, we have our analog filter. If I come back to our mixer, we've got two oscillators. The one we were just hearing, this one, and then we've got a mod VCO. If I turn that one up, it's set so that it can be a low frequency oscillator and go up to 1.3 kilohertz, so it's quite low frequency. And if we drive these mixer settings at high levels, we get kind of interesting tones as the two oscillators combine. And I'm using sequencer 2 to animate the filter here. And if I turn this up, then I get that classic envelope animation combined with the sequencing. Now the filter is not a 24 decibel Moog, it's a 12 decibel ladder filter. A new topology, which is state variable. That means that we can turn it from a low pass to a band pass smoothly. In fact, you're hearing a weird blend of the two. Oof, there's the low pass. to bandpass. We have a ring mod in the middle, which gives us the ring modded combination of the two oscillators. Now, they're not really animating much, are they? I should turn up these controls, which animate them just like they animate the wave folder and the filter. In fact, if I turn them all away, we see QTZ written on the panel, which is quantization. This now means the sequencers are tuning the oscillators to a concert pitch. And that pitch is determined by a scale. If I hold bit shift and move right and left, I have 16 different scales to choose from. Perhaps I will choose number 3, major. Adjust the bias, which is how much the wave folder is pushed up and down. It changes the tonality. And if we're feeling this is quite high frequency E, I can flip the order. Now it will go from wave folder into filter. And if I change the blend control to hear just the filter, I now hear the wave folder going through the filter. So I can use the filter to round off frequencies that I've created with the wave folder. Oh yeah. I have envelope 1 amount controls in the oscillators, just like on the DFAM. They're really good for making drums. And then we have noise. We can apply noise to make things even more dusty. And then there's VCO FM. That is using the mod VCO to FM, the main VCO, which we can then wavefold and filter. That's not the half of it though, mate. Of course, that whole thing here is not just about making weird tones, but making whole ideas. But one of the things that blows my mind is the filter into wave folder. We can use this to make like a sort of kind of busy initial signal, which we then filter. And if I move over to the wave folder, we can then wavefold the filtered signal. Because a wavefolder wants a sort of mellow signal to fold, and so by filtering the signal and then wavefoldering it, we get mayhem. Yeah. going in that direction is a thing. That's just the labyrinth by itself. You can blend between the filter and then go to the crazy wave folded filter. That's before we've even talked about these sequences. Moving on. So, these sequences, how do they work? Well, it bears a little explanation, but it's important. And in fact, the sequences, I would argue, are possibly the best thing that is in the labyrinth. They are a work of genius that are borrowing concepts from legends like the Music Thing Turing Machine, the Law Mill Double Knot. But the brains at Moog found a slightly unique implementation that I think really, really suits live improvisation and makes the idea of an improvised live set a lot easier. So these are two shift registers. A shift register is, in this case, an 8-slot device where each slot can have an off and an on value, and each step also has a voltage value that goes from -5 to +5 volts. And so first triggers, you can perhaps see that steps are lit on or off. And if a step is lit, it can output a trigger from here. And I can use this EG Trig Mix knob, a very clever thing, to choose which of the two sequences is triggering the internal envelope by default. By blending the knob to the left, I now pick sequencer 1. And then by moving it to the right, sequencer 2 is now the one that is triggering the envelopes, and you can smoothly blend this. That is a very cool thing. Blending triggers in this way, it makes it very performable and reliable. I can do like A-B parts by choosing one side then the other. We can also tap the length button to change the length of either sequence. It cycles like this, so you can keep tapping to have steps from anywhere from 1 to 8. We can get lovely polymetric things going on in this way. So we return to an 8-step sequence. But then, what's corrupt? Well, we all got to be a little bit corrupted, haven't we? Remember me telling you that each step has a voltage from -5 to +5 volts? So what corrupt lets you do is it lets you change that voltage probabilistically. It lets you set the likelihood that when the little playhead moves around, that it might change what the voltage is on any one of those steps. And we can turn it up just a smidge. Be just a little bit corrupted. And did you hear? It changed. And this is one of the unique things about the Labyrinth sequencer that you don't get from other analog shift registers, which is that if you keep the corrupt knob before 12 o'clock, then you can change what all of the voltages are on each step without changing your rhythm. It doesn't change whether the lights are red or not, it just changes the voltages that are on that step, which is really important if you have a rhythm that you want to preserve, but you just want to play with different melodic ideas. Different, in that sense, to a Turing machine from the wonderful Music Thing Company. Hi, Tom. And so in this way, we can just corrupt a little bit, find a new melody, and then return the knob to the anti-clockwise position, and it loops what we've got. Then maybe I'll change the length of the sequence 2 to 5 steps, blend it over this side. Then I get the same melodic pattern, but triggered with a completely different rhythm. And we can interact and actually change this bit flipping ourselves. For example, if I push bit flip, I can manually flip a bit and turn steps on and off. I can also shift bits to shift the sequence one way or another. I can actually also decouple the read head from the write head as well. And best of all, I can also hold down buffer, and if I hold it for a second or two, it saves just one buffer into memory so that I could then corrupt a buffer oh, I've changed it. But then I want to return to the previous phrase, I just hit buffer. And I'm back to where we were. Now, I said that if you put corrupt up to the midpoint without going past 12 o'clock, then it changes the voltages, but not the steps. And indeed, if you go beyond 12 o'clock, it changes the voltages and the steps. So by going past 12 o'clock, we get different steps. Remember, we can also manually flip the bits ourselves if we wish. And here's a super cool thing. You've got trigger outputs for the sequences, and you've got an input for bit flipping. So for example, I could use sequencer 1 to flip the bits on 2. Look at that. Now, 1 is telling 2 what to do. So if we listen to 2 while 1 is flipping its bits, it will always sound slightly different, especially if I up the corrupt amount a little. So suddenly there are really quite spectacularly interesting self-generative rhythmic possibilities where Labrinth will just loop, spit out endless ideas for you and let you loop them when you like what it does. I can tell you that there are, in my knowledge, no other Eurorack or hardware devices that have a sequencer that works exactly like this. There are things similar, like the Turing machine and such, but they don't have the same level of control. And I think that makes this a very, very interesting device to put up front on your modular synthesizer or otherwise, and get it to play things such as play your synthesizer. And what I just did then was got it to play the Mother 32, yeah. So the DFAMs make the rhythm. The Mother 32 could be any analog thing you have with CV and gate. And now this is a sequencer, but with an extra bonus synthesizer section, which I could route the Mother into. Oof. Or I could just tune it up. Yes, mate. Save it just in case. Because what I'm going to do is start corrupting. And by saving the buffer, I can always return if I mess up. So that sequencer 1 is driving mod oscillator, so I've got a 2 oscillator bass sound going on in here, because by default the mod oscillator is being driven by sequencer 2. Well, that's cool. Yeah, mate. Labyrinth can be the root. This is the sequencer I would have front and center, and I'd be using its sequencers to drive all my other voices in a variety of ways. Oh, that's nice. This can be tuned to traditional scales, and we'll just be able to always come up with something surprising and unusual, and is implemented in a way that I think makes it as easy as it could possibly be to cast the net for ideas and then accept or reject what you get. It's exactly the type of device that I enjoy using as the primary driver for my modular synthesizer patches, which are all about live improvisation. This, I would say, is a work of genius. It's very, very smart. And I didn't mention the sequencer CD range knobs, which, you may wonder, are the output, are scalers for the output voltages that the sequencers are making. And your question should be, are they pre-quantizer? Yes, they are. So by adjusting the range, I choose how big or small my sequencer is, but it's always in key. It's always in the musical. Oh, that's nice. Let's add more effects to that. we know how this thing works, let's jam with a variety of different setups. It's very nice blending oscillators from the Mavis. Of course, you could use whatever you have. This multi-sequencer out from Labyrinth. And then you've got the little mini mixer here, so you can blend the modulation VCO with the external. And here, using the Mavis affords me PWM over the sounds. It could also be used in the folded output. I spoke to the creator, the original visionary of Labyrinth, Max Ravitz, aka Patricia, an amazing musician who you should check out. And Max told me that the idea is that it's meant to accept signals from other synths. You can see that the dual path, it lets you ingest and work with other things. It's meant to complement the other modes, and by extension anything else that you might have. So the idea is to get the most from it. You feed it complex oscillators, mothers, DFAMs, whatever you have, to spice it up and run them through the filters in the wave folder and sequence them from the sequencer. I really like that sequence, I don't want to lose it. The whole buffer, it saves that sequence to the buffer. This is all important because as I now corrupt it, I am able to return to that point. Yeah. So you can sort of assure yourself a starting position, a place that's good, go corrupt it and mess with it, and then always have the safety net of returning to it. This lets you return to its original point. That's something that's so hard to do in the analog realm. Doesn't really exist outside of things with preset memory. It's one of the examples why the sequencer in Labyrinth is beyond equivalence in the analog realm. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Cast net wide and see what you might get with the buffer as your safety net. Follow those corridors down. That a friend of mine called ABRs always be recording, and the Labyrinth is an ABR because you don't know quite when it's going to spit out some brilliance. So let it be a co-pilot on your jams, but always be recording because you never know what you're gonna get. Maybe the best yet. Oh, back we go. It's Sunday in techno heaven, and the bells are ringing, telling you to go to Berghain. That's your heart beating in the queue. I put on my best black t-shirt for this. Am I gonna get in? Absolutely not.
So here we have the triple DFAM threads being the drum accompaniment for Labyrinth. Changing the wavefold amount, the blend amount, we can make it sort of snarly, then softer as a performance effect. Let's kick it. Ooh. I believe that's called techno. DFAM and Labyrinth work together. Proper. Well, that's a thing, isn't it? Woof. More DFAM, please. That's absolutely a thing, isn't it? That just happened. Well, I mean, what do you call that? What's that called? Oh, yeah. Yep.
corrupt. That pew is coming from here.
Oh, found a new little rhythm there and used the EG Trig Mix knob here to blend between the two different sequences, gate patterns. You can play the gates, form one set of gates, flip over to the other side to perform the other set, or put it in the middle like this. Such a nice performance effect, because unlike corrupting the gates, you can reliably return to them. Of techno in this labyrinth. Like the DFAM, the labyrinth is designed with drum creation in mind. Max told me he loves sine wave bass drums, which is why there's a sine wave on here. And by rerouting the triggers for the envelopes, we can have it so that sequence 1 triggers the top sound and sequence 2 triggers the bottom sound. So we can have 2 kind of completely independently triggered sounds. To which we can add DFAMs and other things, drum machines that we sync via MIDI as well. The distorted thing is the DFAM being driven hard on a Mackie channel. Of course, we've got corrupt. I can be corrupting before 50% to change the CV amount this is creating without interrupting the pattern. So we keep the pattern whilst getting different CV values that modulate other things. Yeah. And then let's change the length. Three over 7. Yes. Yes, mate. Flip a neck. This
This is a perfect example of how the odd lengths that are possible on the Labyrinth really complement the DFAM. It's a common criticism that the DFAM only had 8 steps and you couldn't reset it. Of course, there are a few clever devices that let you do resets. The way to get around that is you drive it or play it against something that is operating at odd lengths. Well, that would be a Labyrinth, wouldn't it? Oof. Many nooks and crannies on this little thing. Yes, mate. What is that? That's just Labyrinth. Yes. One of the things Max told me is if I hold buffer down, it saves the state of the buffer. Because you can then corrupt the buffer, turn it into something else, it means you can always return to where it was. So by writing bits, you can make little progressions, create little cul-de-sacs, and then return to them by hitting buffer. Let's see what we get. By blending the blend control, we can sort of reveal a more soft and muted or harmonically rich signal. Something that Max said he likes to do. We can return to the original buffer. One of of the things that I wanted to make sure I showed you in this video is how you can sync Labrinth to MIDI gear. I have an output from a Roland TR-8 going via one of those big MIDI jack to mini jack connectors here, of which I have 47.8 billion. And if you feed it into the Labrinth, you can clock Labrinth to MIDI. And Labrinth can be played via a MIDI keyboard like a voice as well. One tip is put Labrinth onto a different MIDI channel in the drum machine if you don't want the drum machine's MIDI notes to trigger the Labrinth and transpose it. And then it becomes about riding this thing like a groovebox, using all of the drum sounds available in the drum machine to augment what this is doing, and then corrupting, uncorrupting, and adjusting all of the controls. And of course, Labrinth's voicing is very simplistic, and so it can be useful to have other gear. It's designed to complement and ingest other gear. And I have a Mavis being sequenced by this and going into the cutoff side. And here on the wave folding path, I have the VCO and the mod VCO going in. You're hearing the mod VCO right now. There we have the main VCO. So I've got 3 VCOs that I can basically blend between. On one side, 2 simplistic waveforms being wave folded. On the other side, a Mavis going through the 12 dB analog filter. You can blend the blend control as a performance effect, bounce between different clusters of voices. Yeah, you hear them both together there, wave folder and filter. Surfboard, wait to catch a wave, corrupt until I do, and then uncorrupt and ride it. Blended over to the pure wave folding. So we drop the Mavis here, we're not hearing it. By blending in the mod. We go through a kind of tribal atonal sort of thing. Blending over to the filter, which is running our Mavis path. Wave-folded thing. It works so well. Mavis voice. Oh, tweaking the CV range to do a kind of pseudo octave shift. Those are pre-quantizer, of course. Tweak away. That's intense. cool, isn't it?
Yeah. least. You're still here. Video's over. Go home. Go. Okay. Since you're here, I had a visit from my friend Ben, aka DivKid, the other day, and I wanted to film him reacting to some of the synth, but we mainly just talked. Except there was this one little moment at the end where I just did a little performance while he stood and watched over my shoulder. So I'll leave you with this.
It's very kind of modular, but more accessible than a bunch of modules.
Yeah. I mean, it's like everything you would want from a modular in the sense of like it makes sound and it also performs it. It's a groove box.
Yeah.
But it's like more of a Turing machine-y groove box, even though it isn't. It's more like advanced than a Turing machine.
Yeah, I think the Turing machine is just a clear reference point for shift register pattern making. At Leeds to corrupt them mothers.
And then, like, you should obviously be using the sequencer, like CV output to like modulate.
Can you patch like an LFO or something into the fold or the filter on the Labyrinth itself?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, but you can also patch like you can use the sequencers to step them.
It's been very quick to lock in those like short pattern techno effectively.
Yeah, oh, massively. You know. And it's a 12 dB filter, by the way, so it's not even a, you know.
Lost a couple of balls.
So that's this.
Like a DFAM and a Labyrinth is like minimal viable techno system.
Absolutely. I mean, a Labyrinth by itself is potentially minimal viable, but like the idea was that originally it was meant to be like a DFAM sidecar, so it's like definitely this and a DFAM.
Yeah, having it influence the mother there or a DFAM. I think is where these things start to shine.
One of the big things Max was saying is he's like, they're designing like Mavis and this to complement that. So it's like, what are the other blocks that would be useful to you?
It's immediately hands-on, it seems. And there's probably some really nice interaction if that Mother 32 sequencer is then coming back in.
Yeah, you can't
bit flipping something.
Yeah, you
maybe.
can't decouple them of the sequencer, but you can. I believe you can decouple this, although because there is the one oh yeah, there's the VCO one. VCO. Oh, I'm such a lemon. Like, yeah, I thought there was like no VCO, no 1 volt per octave for this, but it's that. So there is. Yeah, it's really good.
Sounds really good.
It's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. That's it.
Nice.